Okay, so we're rebuilding this engine at home, and we're going to be putting it in this vehicle right here. The old engine is actually still in here, and we're going to be switching it out. This engine in here is seized up. It's no good. It's locked. So we're going to be pulling that one out and replacing it with this engine. So this engine, I took it apart, took it over to the machine shop. They had it cleaned. They also had put in some new freeze plugs. These freeze plugs have to be changed out when you rebuild your engine. Otherwise, it's going to start leaking oil around the edges. And it's hard to track down because you're going to... in my experience, I had it mixed up with the oil pan. I had it mixed up with the heads. It could really come from anywhere. So these freeze plugs, you want to have them changed out. They're like less than $2 a piece. And then the machine shop will have it pressed in for you. So the machine shop also cleans up the engine. Some machine shops have an oven where it cleans it pretty good. Other machine shops, they just use a power washer. It doesn't clean it too well. So you might want to look into the machine shop, see what kind of job they do, how they actually clean it up. And then when you get it back, you want to take a razor, and anywhere there's going to be a gasket or a metal contact, you want to scrape it clean with the razor. So you see we have clean there. We have it clean. This is where the timing cover is going to go. We cleaned that up. We cleaned the other side. Then this is the bed plate, which holds the crankshaft to the engine. So we'll be sitting down here on the bottom. We have that part cleaned up also all the way around. Got the bed plate cleaned up, top and bottom. At home, you don't necessarily need a shop or a garage. The only thing you really need is the tools. Half the tools you can buy, or not even buy, you can rent it over at AutoZone. So this tool right here is a honing tool. With the engine cleaned up and everything scraped up, what we're working on now, as you can see in here, this cylinder is nice and shiny. It's rusted because I left it out in the rain. It rained a couple days, so I couldn't work on it. So we had to get that cleaned up. So when we hone the engine, what this thing does is it spins around really quick. You stick it inside of here and it cleans it out. That shiny portion down here is what you're trying to get rid of, because when the piston slides up and down, the rings are losing compression because it is glazed and there's not much contact. So the air that's supposed to be compressed is actually sliding past the rings and back into your engine. So that's what we're trying to take care of. We want this nice scored finish from the top to the bottom. That way you know that your piston rings are getting good contact, it's sealing properly, and you're getting good compression. So when you're done with your engine and you put it back into the vehicle, you got the power you were looking for when you step on the gas pedal. And over here we have soap and water, just regular dish soap for washing dishes. We got a little container of oil, and then this little deal right here to spread the oil around, because if you go into this with the dry tool, it's actually going to scrape it pretty deep and it's going to ruin the inside. So you have to be careful not to put the tool in dry. So what we did over here, we just dab a little bit. It doesn't have to be a tool like this. It's only like a dollar over in town. You could use a piece of a rag material as long as you put it inside of here, and it's just to lubricate the inside with some oil. That way you don't damage the inside when you apply the tool, and it gives it that nice finish for the piston rings to seat against. And then, as you can see, you don't need a special $20 bucket. Just simply cut open a portion, put some soap and water in there. So with this tool, we just simply dip it into this water, move it around a little, just to get the oil. And so as it spins, you don't want to keep it in one area like this. You want to push it in and out at the same time, so you're getting a cross X finish on the inside and not just a straight line finish. And that's going to help your compression. It's going to help the piston rings sit and compress the air when it meets, as the piston ring goes up and down the cylinder. When you run the drill up and down, you don't have to go full trigger where you're going to the max speed. You want to go about half speed. Just something that you feel comfortable with as you go up and down, because you're going to be going up and down in this cylinder for about 3 to 5 minutes. And you're going to be doing the process about a good 10 times. It's really up to you until you get the finish that you're looking for. When you finish, notice the tool is still sitting down below. You don't want to just pull it straight out, because if you pull it straight out, you're going to leave a scored line going straight up and down. And what that's going to cause is going to cause the oil to leak into the combustion chamber, and it's caused compression to be lost back into the engine. So when you're at the end of your cycle, do not just pull it straight out. As you bring it out, let it spin and pull it out. Just come back over here, stab it a couple times. That way the material on the tool has a good clean finish, so it can re-scrape or score the cylinder bore again. Simply come back, check your progress, and as you can see, it still has some shine to it. The entire area hasn't been done. So you're going to be doing this about, I'd say, up to 10 times. But I mean, if it's your engine, it's really up to you how well you want it to be when it comes out pretty good. If you see that line right there, that's what happened when I pulled the tool straight out. So that's where you're going to lose compression, and that's where oil is going to leak into your combustion chamber. So when you're done with the tool, you don't just pull it straight out. Otherwise, that's what's going to happen. So we're going to have to put this tool back into this middle one and let it spin a couple times to get that straight line out of there. So what we had so far, probably a good 4 cycles in. The very bottom is going to be the part to get finished up last. But as you see, it's making progress. It's really different from what it was before. Trying to get that shine out of there, get that nice crosshatch finish. Also want to be careful that you don't push it too far down, because as you can see, the rest of the engine is sitting way at the bottom. So the tool will make contact and it will damage your tool. So as you go up and down, you want to be careful not to. So it is looking pretty good compared to what it was. Now you will run into some tiny imperfections, like that line there, or at the very top where the ring sets. That is going to be a judgment call. If it's your engine, it'll be up to you how well you want it to perform. You don't want to put it all, taking it all apart, putting it all back together. Doing this process alone takes about 2 to 2.5 hours, depending on how well you want the finish. So little imperfections like that will come out. You just have to put a little bit more time into it. As you can see, these others, I went back to this one, took out that straight line that was there. So the imperfections in these two are gone. Some might take a little longer than others, but it will come out just right. Just depends on how much time you are willing to put into it. Next thing we're going to work on is the piston rings. Got all the rings in here, all the oil rings. Second compression ring, first compression ring. They're all in here. And then we got brand new piston heads. So these little grooves right here on this piston head is where we're going to be putting the rings. And if we come over to the manual, we flip over to the right page, and this little diagram here will tell us which way the ring gap has to be turning. So on each ring, it's a full circle. And on one end, there's going to be a tiny gap. And right here on the piston head, as you can see, there's a letter F on it. That is the front. And on the rear, there should be nothing. So that is the front of the cylinder head. So according to the diagram, this is going to be the front of the piston head. And then for each ring, the expander, the spacer between the two oil rings is going to point 45 in this direction. Ring number 2 is going to be pointing the same direction as the spacer. Then the upper oil ring is going to be facing this direction. And then there's a top compressed ring pointing that direction. They're not all going to be pointing the same direction. If they're all pointing this way, you're going to lose all the compression. All the air is going to go out in this direction. So that's why they have them all pointing in different directions. It tells you how to put it on. So when you first open up the box, the rings are going to be labeled. There's 2, there's 1, there's the oil rings, and it tells you which groove they go in. This is a spacer. So these are oil rings. One's gonna go on top, and then a spacer in the middle, and then another oil ring on the bottom. And these go on the bottom groove. And you got 1 and 2. Some rings between the 1 and the 2, they look identical. They are not going to be able to be distinguished once they're taken out of the bag. So when you take them out, don't take them all out and mix them all up, because you're not going to be able to tell which is which. They have certain cuts on them. If you hold them side by side, you'll be able to tell the difference. But if you don't know the difference, then the best thing you can do is not get them mixed up. Take them out one at a time and put them on each head so you don't get any of them mixed up. Okay, so we got the bottom groove, we got the top groove ring on. So to keep them from getting mixed up, it's best to just do them one at a time. Start at the bottom, do the top. So there's a spacer in the middle, 1 oil ring above it, 1 oil ring below it. It's probably best to put the spacer in first and then put the oil rings on top of them, and then just work your way up. Do the second groove and then do the first groove. On the oil rings, there is no top and no bottom. You can flip them around and it won't matter, as long as you have 1 on top, 1 on bottom, and a spacer. But for the top compressor ring and the second compressor ring, there is going to be a top, and the top has to face the top of the piston head. So you want to make sure those are all facing up and they are not facing down, because of the way the cut is. It has to be sitting in a certain way when it goes back inside the engine block. But do not break them, because you cannot buy them individually. If you break one, you have to buy an entire set. Okay, so next we got the bed plate cleaned off. Smells like brake cleaner out here. Sprayed it out pretty good. Wiped it down. Same thing with the crankshaft. Wiped it down pretty good. If you got some rust on here, you can get 100 grit sandpaper and rub these down just until the rust comes off. You don't want to use any lower grit, because you will ruin the finish and it will have to be grinded on the machine shop. So with these ones cleaned up, we also cleaned this up. Got the cylinders honed. Got a good finish. Sprayed it down with brake cleaner. And now we're going to blow dry this cylinder head. The main areas you really want to clean out with air is where the head bolts go, because we cleaned the whole thing with brake cleaner. The fluid could still be built up in here, along with dirt and oil. Any type of fluid that could be in here, you want to clean it out, because when you're putting the head bolt in, it's going to leave a gap. And most people think that the head bolt just needs to be torqued down more with a wrench, and when they do that, they end up stripping the head, and that makes the entire engine no good. You can use compressed air with the compressor, or you can go over to Walmart and get a bottle of canned air. Either one is fine as long as you get some air in here to clean out anything that might be in there. So what we're doing next, engine bearings, brand new kit. All this stuff came in a kit. I didn't buy it individually. After you're gonna make a model, find a kit for your vehicle. So these bearings, they all go into these individual seats. Now the way to put it back together is basically the same, the reverse order of how you took it apart. So when you first take it apart, you want to take videos, record with your phone if you have to. So you put everything back exactly the way it came apart. So on the block side, it's all rough and kind of dirty. We're not going to make it smooth because it creates this rough portion, helps hold the bearing in place. So on the crankshaft, we use 100 grit sandpaper to help smooth it all out, to get the rust off of there. But that's on the areas that's going to be smooth up against, rotating right here against the block. So on this block, we are not going to be smoothing these areas out. We are going to leave them rough. That way the bearings do not spin and end up falling out of place. You also want to keep note that the bearings on the block side have these little grooves inside of them. The bearings that go on the crankshaft or on the bed plate do not have these grooves. So like I said, the way you take the engine apart is the way it's going to go back together. So when you first take it apart, you want to make note of how things go. And in this portion, these little beaches here, I can't remember what they're called, but they sit right in here. If you see, there is a little indentation right in here, and this one has a big area right here. That is where this top one is going to go. On the opposite side of it, there's also another indentation, and you notice this part is shorter. That is going to be the short one. So that is where it's going to sit. And set this one on this side. So now we leave it right there. If it won't stay in place, There's nothing wrong with putting a little bit of engine lube right there, but it should stay where it needs to be. Then as the vehicle runs, it'll eventually fall where it needs to go. But that's pretty much how it goes. And then the next step is going to be engine lube. So where the crankshaft sits in these grooves, we're going to put some engine lube right there to help to prevent the engine from a dry start. So it's not metal to metal spinning, but it actually has some lubrication so it doesn't ruin the crankshaft or the engine block. So don't worry about using a bunch of it. Buy more if you have to. You definitely don't want the vehicle to suffer a dry start. We're going to set the crankshaft nice and slow. Careful not to knock out those, I believe they're called thrust washers. Over into the bed plate, same thing. Apply the bearings, apply the lube. Same thing with the bed plate. So the bottom of the bed plate, this area is pretty rough. We are not going to sand that down. We're going to leave it the way it is. That rough portion is actually going to help these bearings stay in place. Try to make sure it's as flush as possible. Be careful not to put any right here. Next we go over here to the book. So this is a picture of the bed plate. This is a 2.4 picture. Our vehicle is a 3.7. So if you notice how it's set up, that is how the bed plate looks. And the dark lines is where we are going to run a bead of the silicone, creating a gasket, which is going to help seal up the bed plate to the engine block.
Having fun.
So there's a silicone placed down. You'd want to try to use about a 1/4 inch when you set it down, because if you make it too thick, it's going to go in. You don't want it to go inside of the engine, because if it gets too thick, it's going to squeeze, and when it squeezes, it's going to spread, and if it spreads too far, it's going to go into the engine. If it goes into the engine, it's going to go through the little passages and potentially clog something up. So when you squeeze that out, try to use about a 1/4 inch of it. Up here, you see I made it a little too thick to start with, but over here towards the end, I started to thin it out. So when you use it, you only use about a 1/4 inch and make it according to the picture shown, as close as possible. Might not look exactly the same, but it gives you an idea of how to do it. You notice that I'm not using the metal side of it. We don't want to ruin the top finish of it. We want it perfectly flat, undamaged. So get anything with the rubber portion at the bottom. That way you just pound it down. And you want to place the bolts snugly. Right now we're not trying to torque them down hard. We're just sealing them down until they're snug. Here, there's your tightening sequence. And as you can see, it goes 1 to 23 is the highest. So it's going to be 23 bolts. All we placed was 8. We're going to have to put in all the rest. And then we'll tell you where to start. Do 1, 2, and you just follow the numbers. 3, 4, and you just tighten it all the way up. Then if you go to the back to the beginning of the chapter, which would be chapter 2, 2C, will tell you right here, main bearing and bearing bolts, main bearing, bed plate bolts. It'll tell you which bolts, step 1, step 2, step 3, and they'll tell you how much to tighten it. And you just do it specifically in that order until you reach the full tightening amount. Okay. So we did step 1, 4 to 7 and 6. Well, we actually just high and tightened everything. We don't need to skip. We can skip that first step. Second step, 1 through 10, 40 pounds. Next, we are going to do bolts 11 to 18 at 60 inch-pounds. And 11 to 18 are going to be all the bolts right down the middle. Step 3 is now we're doing step 4, 11 to 18 again. It says tighten an additional quarter turn. Quarter turn is going to be 90 degrees, which is about a right angle. When you do the 90-degree turn, you want to make sure you don't run into anything. Like if you turn here, you could run into this bolt. Or if you turn here, you could run into this bolt. You want to get into an angle where you can do the 90-degree turn in one smooth motion. That's the idea of quarter turn, half turn, done in one smooth motion, not in 2 or 3 motions. Another way to double check the tightness is to turn the crankshaft. So at this point, you should be able to still turn it freely by hand. Once the piston heads are placed in, it's going to be harder to turn, but you should still be able to put a wrench. You should still be able to put a wrench to it and turn it with one hand. If it's too tight, then you know that you tightened something up too much. And the last step, step 5, tighten bolts 19 to 23 at 20 foot-pounds. Over here, it doesn't say foot-pounds. It is always read as foot-pounds unless it says inch-pounds. So if there's no indication on the side of it, it is a foot-pound. So the tightening sequence is completed. Bed plate is completely torqued down, and you can see the gasket, the silicone on the side. Just like we said, when the bed plate bolts up against the block, it squeezes the gasket and it pushes it completely between the two metal surfaces, and it seals the two together so that the oil does not leak out. Right there, looks like we put a little too much right here, squeezed out into that, squeezed to the outside. So there you go. Gasket set, bolts are in. So if you don't have a garage to work in, right here we're just out in the open area working underneath the canopy. You know, wind picks up, dust blows. We just got done cleaning the engine as good as we could. So I want to cover up the engine just so no further dirt gets in there. Trying to get it back together as quickly as we can so that less dirt gets inside the engine. So yeah, that's going to be it for today. So tomorrow we will put the piston heads in, hopefully put the cylinder heads back on, and if there's time, maybe get to the timing set, put that in. We'll see what happens. Get back to it tomorrow. So thanks for watching.